If you've ever wanted to grow fruit but thought your garden was too shady, think again. While some fruits demand full sun, others actually thrive in softer light and cooler corners. Whether you have dappled shade under trees or just a few hours of sunlight each day, there are plenty of sweet, reliable options waiting for you. So in today's video, we'll explore 20 of the most perfect fruits to grow in a shady garden space. The first fruit that grows beautifully in partial shade is the raspberry. Raspberries are one of the most rewarding fruits you can grow. And the good news is that they don't require full blazing sun to produce a generous crop. In fact, partial shade varieties like Polka and Glen Ample are known to thrive with just 4 hours of sunlight per day. Raspberries do especially well in cooler climates and can tolerate filtered light, making them perfect for the edges of tree canopies or the north side of a fence. They still appreciate some morning sun, but too much afternoon heat can actually stress them out. That's why partial shade often leads to juicier, better-flavored berries. These hardy plants grow best in USDA zones 4 through 9 and can be planted as canes or propagated from runners. Once established, they'll reward you year after year with a steady summer harvest. The key is to prune annually after fruiting. This encourages new growth and prevents your patch from becoming overcrowded or tangled. If your goal is steady fruit production with minimal fuss, raspberries are a top choice for shaded gardens. They're resilient, produce abundantly, even in less than ideal light, and are perfect for everything from snacking fresh to making homemade jams. With a little pruning and patience, you'll have a thriving raspberry patch that loves your shady garden just as much as you do. The second fruit that works well in partial shade is the plum. Many plum varieties set fruit reliably with 4 to 6 hours of direct light, especially when you choose compact or dwarf trees. Smaller trees are easier to sight near buildings or in dappled light, and they channel energy into blossoms and fruit instead of an oversized canopy. Plums appreciate morning sun with some afternoon protection. That pattern dries dew quickly, which helps with disease prevention, while the cooler afternoon keeps trees from heat stress. Popular adaptable choices like Santa Rosa can perform in a range of climates, and dwarf selections make pruning and harvest simple in tighter spaces. Good structure is the secret in shade. Prune once a year to keep the interior open, so light can reach flower buds along the branches. Thin, crowded shoots remove any crossing wood and maintain a balanced shape. Better light penetration means better bloom quality and more consistent fruiting. Plums are also kitchen all-stars. They are juicy for fresh eating and perfect for jams or baking, so you get a lot of mileage from a modest tree. In cooler or mixed light sites, mulch the root zone, water deeply but not often, and feed lightly in early spring. Those simple habits support steady growth without forcing excess foliage. If you want a shade-tolerant tree that still delivers a generous basket, plums are a smart pick. Choose a compact variety, give it morning sun and an annual prune, and you will be rewarded with reliable blossoms and sweet fruit even where light is limited. The next fruit that can thrive in partial shade is the fig. Known for their rich, honeyed sweetness, figs are surprisingly forgiving when it comes to sunlight. While they love warmth, they can still produce a healthy crop with about 4 to 6 hours of direct light per day, especially if that light comes in the morning. In hot regions, a little shade is actually beneficial. Afternoon shade helps prevent leaf scorch and keeps the fruits from drying or cracking in intense heat. Varieties like Chicago Hardy are ideal for gardeners in USDA zones 6 through 10, and they're compact enough to grow in containers, which makes it easier to move them if you need to chase the sun. Figs are self-pollinating, which means you only need one tree to produce fruit. Plant them in well-drained soil and avoid overwatering, as figs dislike soggy roots. During winter, they can handle light frost, but in colder zones, wrap or move container-grown trees to protect them from freezing temperatures. You'll notice the best yields on new wood, so light pruning in late winter helps encourage fresh growth and more fruit the following season. Few fruits reward partial shade like figs do. They're low maintenance, drought tolerant, and deliver a taste that feels like sunshine, even if your garden only gets a few hours of it. The fourth fruit you can confidently grow in partial shade is the low-bush blueberry. Blueberries are an American garden favorite, and while high-bush types prefer full sun, low-bush varieties thrive with as little as 3 to 5 hours of light each day. That makes them an excellent option for cooler, northern climates or gardens shaded by trees. Low-bush blueberries are naturally compact and spread through underground rhizomes, forming a carpet of fruit-bearing foliage. They're perfect for borders under taller trees, or even as a ground cover in orchard-style gardens. These small plants perform best in USDA zones 3 through 7, where cooler summers and acidic soil mimic their natural woodland habitat. The key to success with blueberries is soil preparation. They need a pH between 4.5 and 5.5, which means you may have to amend your soil with peat moss, pine needles, or sulfur to maintain acidity. Mulch them with pine bark or sawdust to lock in moisture and protect their shallow roots. Even with partial sun, you can expect steady yields of small, sweet tart berries. They might produce a little later than those grown in full light, but the flavor remains outstanding. Low-bush blueberries are also highly ornamental. In spring, they bloom with clusters of white bell-shaped flowers, and in fall, their foliage turns a brilliant red. If you want a fruit that brightens shaded corners while still rewarding you with harvests, low-bush blueberries are a perfect choice. The fifth fruit that thrives surprisingly well in partial shade is the blackberry. Hardy, vigorous, and generous with their fruit, blackberries can handle as little as 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day and still produce heavy crops. They're one of the best choices for gardeners who want dependable fruit in less than perfect light. In full sun, blackberries can sometimes dry out or overheat, but a bit of dappled shade actually helps maintain moisture in the soil and keeps berries plump and flavorful. Thornless varieties like Triple Crown or Arapaho are especially popular in home gardens, as they're easier to manage and still deliver plenty of sweet fruit. Blackberries grow best in USDA zones 5 through 9. They can be trained on a trellis or left to form natural hedges that double as a privacy barrier. In partial shade, you may notice fewer canes, but the berries that do form will be larger and juicier. Morning sun followed by light afternoon shade is ideal. Keep your blackberry patch productive by pruning out the canes that have already fruited, since new growth is what produces next year's harvest. Mulch around the base to conserve moisture and keep weeds down, and water regularly during flowering and fruiting. Blackberries are resilient, fast-growing, and perfect for turning shaded corners into productive berry patches. Give them a little room to spread, and they'll reward you for years with summer harvests full of rich flavor. The next fruit that grows beautifully in partial shade is the pear. Pear trees are often overlooked for shaded gardens, but they're far more adaptable than many people realize. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight daily, most varieties will still flower, set fruit, and deliver a dependable crop each year. Pears prefer cool mornings with some shade in the afternoon, especially in warmer climates. That light pattern helps reduce heat stress and prevents sun scald on developing fruit. Classic varieties like Bartlett or Anjou perform reliably across USDA zones 4 through 9, while dwarf and semi-dwarf trees are ideal for smaller yards or partially shaded spaces. One big advantage of pears is their long lifespan and storage potential. Once established, they're tough, disease-resistant, and can produce fruit for decades. The fruits themselves also store for months, which makes them one of the most practical trees to grow in any garden. In partial shade, pruning becomes extra important. Keeping the canopy open ensures good airflow and allows light to reach inner branches for even ripening. Thin out excess fruit in midsummer so the remaining pears can size up properly. Mulch the base to retain soil moisture, and water deeply during dry spells. You'll be amazed at how productive a pear tree can be, even without full sun. If you want a long-term, low-maintenance fruit tree that doesn't mind a bit of shade, pears are one of the best you can plant. And to continue our list with the seventh fruit that thrives in partial shade is the currant, and whether you grow black, red, or white varieties, these compact shrubs are a powerhouse for small, shaded gardens. Currants are native to cooler regions and actually prefer protection from harsh afternoon sun, making them ideal for spots that get only 3 to 5 hours of light per day. These berries grow best in USDA zones 3 through 7 and are famous for their high vitamin C content and tart flavor, perfect for jellies, jams, or desserts. Red currants like Rovata are the most common for home gardens, while black currants such as Ben Sarek deliver deeper flavor for syrups and cordials. Currants are particularly valuable for gardeners with mature trees, since they perform beautifully as understory plants. They can handle light shade from tree canopies as long as the soil remains rich, moist, and well-drained. Adding compost each spring and a layer of mulch keeps roots cool and productive. One of the best parts about currants is their ease of care. They're resistant to most pests and diseases. They rarely need spraying, and pruning once a year keeps them in shape. Remove old, woody stems to encourage new growth, which is where most of the fruit forms. If your garden has limited sunlight, but you still dream of harvesting fresh berries, currants are one of the most dependable options you can grow. They thrive in the shade, require minimal upkeep, and reward you with baskets of fruit season after season. The eighth fruit that grows exceptionally well in shaded gardens is the gooseberry. Closely related to currants, gooseberries are hardy, compact shrubs that actually prefer partial shade, especially in warmer areas. Too much direct sunlight can cause leaf scorch, but with 3 to 5 hours of light a day, these plants thrive and produce a steady crop of tart, flavorful berries. Gooseberries grow best in USDA zones 3 through 8, making them a reliable choice for much of the country. Varieties like Invicta or Hinonmaki Red are well known for their strong yields and resistance to common diseases. Their fruit ranges from green to red or even golden, and it's packed with pectin, making gooseberries perfect for jams, pies, and preserves. They prefer rich, well-drained soil with consistent moisture. A mulch layer helps keep the roots cool and prevents weeds, which can compete for nutrients. Gooseberries are naturally small, so they fit beautifully into tight spaces or along borders that receive filtered sunlight. One of the great things about gooseberries is that they're forgiving. They'll still fruit even in areas where other berries struggle, and their slightly spiny branches deter animals that might otherwise steal your harvest. With minimal pruning, just remove old canes every few years. You can expect years of reliable production. For gardeners with cooler, shady yards, gooseberries are a nearly foolproof fruit that thrives where many others won't. And the next fruit that does remarkably well in partial shade is the elderberry. These native shrubs are as tough as they come, and they're gaining popularity for both their immune-boosting berries and their ability to thrive where other fruiting plants might fail. Elderberries only need about 3 to 5 hours of sunlight a day to produce a strong yield, making them a top choice for shaded or woodland gardens. Elderberries grow best in USDA zones 3 through 9 and can adapt to a wide range of soil types, from rich loam to slightly damp areas. Varieties like Adams and York are common in home gardens, prized for their reliability and easy maintenance. They spread readily through shoots, forming natural hedges that produce large clusters of berries by midsummer. While the berries must be cooked before eating, as raw elderberries can cause stomach upset, they make fantastic syrups, wines, and jams. The flowers are also edible and can be used to make tea or cordial. In partial shade, Elderberries often produce larger, juicier fruit because the cooler conditions reduce heat stress. Just make sure to prune older canes each year to keep new, productive shoots growing. Few fruits combine beauty, resilience, and usefulness like the elderberry. Its sprays of white flowers and deep purple fruit brighten even dim corners of the garden, and it rewards you with generous harvests year after year. The 10th fruit that grows wonderfully in partial shade is the serviceberry, also known as the Juneberry or Saskatoon. This native North American shrub or small tree is both ornamental and productive, providing early spring blossoms, summer fruit, and gorgeous fall foliage. Even with just 3 to 5 hours of sunlight a day, serviceberries can produce impressive yields of sweet blueberry-like fruit. They grow best in USDA zones 4 through 9 and are incredibly hardy, handling both cold winters and light shade with ease. These plants naturally grow as understory trees in the wild, which makes them perfect for gardeners with tall trees or limited direct sun. Serviceberries need well-drained soil and moderate moisture. A layer of mulch will help retain moisture and regulate temperature, especially during hot summers. While they can tolerate shade, giving them a bit of morning light helps improve fruit sweetness and size. The fruit itself ripens in early summer and can be eaten fresh, baked into pies, or used in jams and preserves. Birds love serviceberries just as much as humans do, so you may need to use netting if you want to keep some for yourself. Low maintenance, resilient, and beautiful year-round. Serviceberries are one of the most rewarding fruits to grow in shady spaces. They bring both beauty and abundance to parts of your yard that might otherwise go unused. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more gardeners like yourself, who would also find it so helpful to discover which fruits can thrive in the shade. All right, let's move on to the next one. The 11th fruit on our list is one of the most unique you can grow in partial shade, is the pawpaw tree. Native to the eastern United States, the pawpaw is sometimes called the tropical fruit of temperate climates, because its creamy, custard-like flesh tastes like a mix of banana, mango, and melon. And unlike most fruit trees, pawpaws actually prefer light shade, especially when young. They grow best in USDA zones 5 through 8 and can handle as little as 3 to 5 hours of sunlight a day. In the wild, pawpaws are often found as understory trees in forests, thriving beneath taller species. Too much hot, direct sun can stress them, especially in their first few years, so a bit of shade protection actually helps them establish stronger roots. Pawpaw trees produce large, drooping leaves that give them an exotic look. They bloom with deep purple flowers in spring, followed by clusters of greenish-yellow fruit that ripen in late summer. Since most varieties aren't self-pollinating, you'll need at least 2 genetically different trees for good fruit production, though the Shenandoah variety is one of the few self-fertile options. They prefer rich, well-drained soil with consistent moisture, and a layer of mulch helps keep the roots cool. Pawpaws are hardy, pest-resistant, and ideal for shaded backyards where citrus or stone fruit would struggle. If you want something unusual, native, and shade-loving, the pawpaw tree is a perfect choice. And the next fruit that performs well in partial shade is the hardy kiwi. Unlike the fuzzy supermarket kiwi, hardy kiwi produces clusters of smooth, bite-sized fruits that you can eat whole. With about 4 to 6 hours of sun, these vigorous vines can still set a satisfying crop, especially when they receive morning light and a bit of afternoon protection. Hardy kiwi grows best in USDA zones 4 through 8. A sturdy trellis or arbor is essential because vines are vigorous once established. Most varieties need both a male and a female plant for pollination, but the variety Isai is self-fertile, which simplifies planting in smaller yards. In partial shade, Foliage may be a little less vibrant, but fruiting remains reliable if vines are well supported and pruned. Train new growth along horizontal wires, then prune in late winter to keep canes productive and to let light reach the developing fruiting spurs. Consistent moisture is important, so mulch the root zone to hold water and keep soil temperatures even. Check local regulations if you are in parts of the Northeast, since hardy kiwi can be considered invasive in a few areas. In most home gardens, it behaves well with regular pruning and a defined support. Hardy kiwi is perfect for fences and pergolas where space is vertical and direct sun is limited. Give it a strong frame, a partner for pollination unless you choose Isai, and steady care, and it will reward you with sweet, aromatic fruit even in a lightly shaded garden. The 13th fruit, or technically fruit-like plant, on this list is rhubarb. Although it's often used in pies and jams alongside strawberries, rhubarb is actually a perennial vegetable grown for its tart, colorful stalks. What makes it perfect for shady gardens is that it thrives in cooler conditions and can grow well with just 3 to 5 hours of sunlight each day. Rhubarb is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8 and does best in well-drained, fertile soil. The variety Victoria is particularly well known for handling partial shade while still producing thick, flavorful stalks. Too much direct sun can sometimes cause stalks to wilt or turn woody, so a bit of afternoon shade can actually improve quality and tenderness. To get the best results, avoid harvesting rhubarb in its first year after planting. Give the plant time to establish a strong root system. From the second year onward, you can begin cutting stalks once they're thick and firm. Always leave a few stalks on the plant to keep it healthy and productive. Remember, only the stalks are edible. The leaves contain oxalic acid and should be discarded. Rhubarb benefits from a layer of compost each spring and mulch around the base to hold in moisture and discourage weeds. With its striking red stems, broad leaves, and tangy flavor, rhubarb is a tough, shade-tolerant crop that adds both beauty and usefulness to your garden. The next fruit that grows surprisingly well in partial shade is the sour cherry. Unlike sweet cherries, which need long hours of direct sunlight to ripen properly, sour or tart varieties can still produce a solid harvest with just 4 to 6 hours of light per day. That makes them a great choice for smaller or shadier gardens where other fruit trees might struggle. Sour cherries, such as the classic Morello or North Star, thrive in USDA zones 4 through 8. They're smaller and more compact than sweet cherry trees, which makes them easier to prune and care for in tight spaces. Even in light shade, these trees blossom beautifully in spring and yield bright red fruit by midsummer. In shaded conditions, good air circulation becomes important. Trim away crowded branches to let sunlight filter into the canopy and to reduce the risk of fungal problems. Sour cherries are self-pollinating, so you only need one tree to produce fruit, although nearby trees can improve yield slightly. These cherries are tart but incredibly flavorful when used for pies, preserves, or sauces. The slightly cooler, dimmer growing environment actually helps maintain their firm texture and rich flavor. If your yard doesn't get full sun, but you still want the beauty of spring blossoms and a summer harvest, sour cherries are an elegant, shade-tolerant solution. With minimal care, they'll reward you with both color and taste year after year. And the next fruit that performs well in partial shade is the mulberry. These fast-growing trees are known for their abundance, durability, and adaptability. Even with only 4 to 6 hours of sunlight daily, mulberries can still produce generous crops of sweet blackberry-like fruit that attract both people and wildlife. Mulberries grow best in USDA zones 4 through 8, and they're naturally tolerant of a variety of conditions, from rich garden soil to more rugged, less fertile ground. They can handle moderate shade, especially in the afternoon, which helps prevent leaf scorch and keeps fruit from drying out too quickly. Dwarf varieties are excellent choices for small gardens or for those who prefer easier harvesting. One thing to note is that mulberries can stain surfaces when ripe fruit drops, so it's best to plant them away from patios, driveways, or walkways. With that in mind, they make wonderful shade or border trees, producing fruit over several weeks in late spring and early summer. The fruit itself is sweet and slightly tangy, perfect for fresh eating, smoothies, or preserves. Birds love them too, so consider netting your tree if you want to save some of the harvest for yourself. Mulberries require very little maintenance, just a light annual prune to shape the canopy and remove crossing branches. In return, they reward you with fast growth, reliable yields, and a burst of rich purple fruit even in partially shaded spaces. The 16th fruit that grows beautifully in partial shade is the quince. This old-fashioned favorite is making a quiet comeback in American gardens thanks to its fragrant golden fruit and tough, adaptable nature. Quince trees tolerate a range of light conditions and can still produce high-quality fruit with about 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day. Quince grows best in USDA zones 5 through 9 and adapts well to both cooler and warmer climates. While the fruit is too tart to eat raw, it transforms into something magical when cooked, aromatic, pink, and perfect for jellies, preserves, and baked desserts. The variety pineapple is especially hardy and productive, even in partly shaded or damp areas. These small trees or large shrubs appreciate rich, well-drained soil and regular moisture. In partial shade, they often maintain greener foliage and develop a more balanced shape than trees grown in full sun, which can sometimes become leggy or dry out too quickly. Another benefit of quince is its decorative value. In early spring, the branches burst with delicate pinkish-white flowers, adding color to shaded corners of your garden. Later in the season, the pear-shaped fruit matures into glowing yellow orbs with a floral fragrance that can perfume an entire yard. Quince is hardy, elegant, and low maintenance. The perfect addition for gardeners who want something different, productive, and shade-tolerant all at once. And the next fruit that's perfect for shady gardens is the Alpine strawberry. Unlike regular strawberries, which need full sun for strong yields, Alpine strawberries are naturally adapted to lower light and cooler conditions. They can fruit reliably with as little as 3 to 5 hours of sunlight per day, making them ideal for borders, containers, or garden paths that get only filtered light. Alpine strawberries thrive in USDA zones 4 through 9 and produce small, intensely sweet berries with a wonderful wild strawberry flavor. These plants don't send out long runners like standard varieties, which means they stay neat and contained, a big plus for gardeners working in limited space. They grow best in well-drained, slightly acidic soil rich in organic matter. Consistent moisture helps them perform well, especially during the growing season. But be careful not to let the soil become waterlogged. A light mulch layer helps regulate temperature and retain moisture in shadier spots. Alpine strawberries produce fruit continuously from late spring into early fall, and because the berries are smaller, they ripen quickly. Their compact size and delicate flowers also make them an attractive ground cover in shaded beds. If you've struggled to grow regular strawberries in your garden's dimmer corners, Alpine strawberries are the answer. They're low maintenance, beautifully ornamental, and reward you with steady, flavorful harvests even when sunlight is limited. The 18th fruit that can thrive in partial shade is the Muscadine grape. Native to the southeastern United States, muscadines are built for heat and humidity, yet they're also remarkably tolerant of lower light. They can still produce plenty of fruit with about 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day, especially when they get good morning exposure. Muscadines grow best in USDA zones 7 through 10 and are prized for their thick skins, sweet flavor, and natural resistance to pests and diseases. The variety Carlos is particularly vigorous and reliable. producing bronze-colored fruit ideal for fresh eating, juice, or even homemade wine. These grapes grow as strong vines and need sturdy support. An arbor, trellis, or fence works perfectly. In partial shade, the vines may not grow quite as aggressively, which actually helps concentrate energy into the fruit instead of endless foliage. Prune annually during the dormant season to maintain airflow and encourage new fruiting wood. Muscadines prefer well-drained soil with moderate fertility. Avoid overfeeding, as too much nitrogen will lead to leafy growth and fewer grapes. A bit of afternoon shade can protect them from heat stress and improve flavor development. In return for very little care, muscadines will reward you with heavy clusters of sweet, juicy fruit every late summer. They're durable, productive, and a beautiful way to make shaded fences or pergolas, both decorative and edible. And the next fruit that handles partial shade beautifully is the Loquat tree. This tropical-looking evergreen is native to Asia, but has become a favorite in the southern United States for its glossy leaves, fragrant flowers, and golden orange fruit. Loquats grow best in USDA zones 8 through 10 and can produce a reliable harvest with about 4 to 6 hours of sunlight daily. Unlike many fruit trees, loquats actually appreciate a bit of protection from harsh afternoon sun, especially in hot climates. Too much direct light can scorch their large leaves, while filtered or dappled shade helps keep the tree looking lush and healthy. Afternoon shade also improves fruit quality, as cooler temperatures allow sugars to develop more evenly. Loquats bloom in late fall or early winter and produce fruit in spring, making them one of the few trees that yield outside the typical summer season. The fruit tastes like a blend of apricot and pear, juicy, sweet, and slightly tangy. Varieties like Gold Nugget and Champagne are popular for their flavor and productivity. Plant loquats in well-drained soil and water regularly during dry spells. Mulch around the base to keep roots cool and moist. Because the trees stay relatively compact, they're a great fit for smaller yards, or as an ornamental centerpiece. If you live in a mild climate and want a unique, shade-tolerant fruit tree that's beautiful year-round, the loquat is a perfect choice. The 20th and final fruit that thrives in partial shade is the choke cherry. This hardy native shrub or small tree is one of the most cold-tolerant fruits you can grow, thriving from USDA zones 2 through 7. It produces clusters of small, dark purple berries that ripen in late summer and are perfect for jellies, syrups, and even homemade wine. Choke cherries grow naturally along forest edges and stream banks, which means they're perfectly adapted to low light. They only need about 3 to 5 hours of sunlight per day to produce a solid crop. Too much direct sun can actually dry out the fruit and stress the plant, so a partly shaded location is ideal. These resilient plants aren't fussy about soil, but they prefer well-drained conditions with consistent moisture. Once established, they can handle dry spells and cold winters with ease. A layer of mulch helps retain moisture and regulate soil temperature, especially in sunnier or wind-exposed areas. Choke cherries are also an excellent choice for wildlife gardens. Birds and pollinators love their fragrant white blossoms in spring and the fruit that follows. Just keep in mind that the berries are quite astringent when raw, so it's best to cook or sweeten them before eating. If you're looking for a native, low-maintenance, and shade-tolerant fruiting plant, choke cherries close out our list as one of the most rewarding options for cooler, shaded spaces. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden. Whether your yard is sunny or shaded, there's always something delicious you can grow.